And to the Middle East now, Tel Aviv has opened a media war room to combat anti-Israeli propaganda. And that's according to the country's foreign ministry.
The war room identifies false or biased reports and acts swiftly by deploying Israeli and pro-Israel spokespersons to debunk accusations and present Israel's narrative.
Now, the new headquarters, staffed by diplomats and students studying international communications, will monitor and respond to what is classified as unfriendly content. The center is set to analyze about 250 news channels and 10,000 reports related to Israel every day. It's tasked with identifying false or biased publications and communicates the country's position to a global audience. Earlier, the Israeli foreign minister claimed ignorance after it was pointed out to him that Kiev had been renaming streets in honor of a Nazi collaborator.
They renamed the streets, even the street, the boulevard going to the Babi Yar, but you know, of course, in the name of Bandera, the one that was responsible for the Babi Yar, and also the monuments of the Red Army, they're taking them down, and they're putting monuments of Bandera, Levich, and Israel about that for years now.
First of all, I didn't know about it. I will check it, and you know that. You probably know that. Probably know that because you asked that. But it's your knowledge. That's clear. But we will check it, and if there is a necessity, we will publish a condemnation. No problem about it. I want to check it, and we'll do that. Yeah.
Now, well, let's speak to that very journalist who was asking the question to the diplomat, Nick Kolyohin. Nick, I'm glad to have you join me now. So why do you think that the Israeli foreign minister didn't know about the renaming of streets in honor of a Nazi collaborator? Is Israel really not aware of what is happening in Ukraine?
I hope that the Israeli minister, a Jewish person, knows his own history of his people and the sad history of the Holocaust, when Ukraine was the second place where the most of the Jews were exterminated, killed by Nazis and collaborators. Unfortunately, some of them were from Ukraine. About 1.5 million people were killed just in Ukraine. And I think the minister was really surprised by my question. And that's why he didn't know what to say, because unfortunately, in the past years, Israel more thinks about diplomacy, not to offend some other countries or maybe to do some diplomatic disasters for themselves. But they forget that they are the ones that should be in front of battling the anti-Semitism, the denial of Holocaust, the remembering of this awful history time. And Israel should be the first one to acknowledge that. And when we think why people were silent back in Europe, why they drink their cafes in France and other countries, and even took the houses of Jews that were killed. And we were wondering for so many years here in Israel how it happened. And now we are silencing what is going on in Ukraine. It is a shame. And I watch it for many years now. And I really ashamed as Israeli, as Jew, why the country choose this diplomatic way not to be offender of other countries just because it's not politically correct right now.
All right. Now, you have been suspended from participating in the weekly briefings of the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Do you think this is related to the fact that you asked such a provocative question?
I guess it is related because before that, I was going to those briefings and nothing happened. And just days after, suddenly, the ministry told me that because I'm also working sometimes for Israeli media, I can't go anymore for international media briefings. And it is fair to say that those briefings are only for the international media. For the Israeli media, we don't have this kind of briefings. And it is sad if the ministry, instead of saying their position, they just expelling the journalists that daring to ask questions that they don't want to answer. And the other journalists, most of them are from Western media, so of course they don't care about this kind of questions. But was really surprising for me that nobody from the Israeli media spoke about that, and this is really disappointing.
Now, let's turn to this new media war room now. What led to the Israeli Authority to feel such a thing is needed now?
I think it was always needed because Israel is losing the battle on the global media. And even when Israel writes in its fight against terrorism, in many countries it portrayed as a occupier, as a country that without any reason attacking other people. But me, as the one that was grown up here and was in the Israeli army, I can say that many Israelis want peace and many Israelis want to live by the Palestinians side by side. But unfortunately, for all the tens of years that I'm living in Israel, all the time we have terror attacks, we have barrages of rockets, and we have wars that launched against us. So Israel is stronger than its opponents, and that's why it is seen not as an underdog, and maybe that's why many of the international media look at Israel as an aggressor. But I believe that Israeli cause is right, even if sometimes it makes mistakes, for sure. Sometimes it politicizes its way of conducting the war. But I think this kind of situation, media room for Israel, is an essential tool to try and to mitigate a little bit the criticism against Israel.
All right, it is believed that the media center was the first to draw attention to a BBC documentary featuring the son of a senior Hamas official, which resulted in the program being pulled. Do you think the media war room really was responsible here?
I'm not sure, but they are PR guys, so maybe it's a good PR move. But anyway, what BBC did, and they are doing it for many years, it is a disgrace because BBC, even not recognizing terrorists as terrorists, their journalists aren't able, they are forbidden by their editors to tell to the audience that actually there are terrorists that are doing attacks against Israel. And this is not a free media. This is a hypocrisy. So I think BBC sometimes is really shameful.
All right, we have to leave it here now. Thank you so much, Nick Kolyohin, journalist, joining us right here to give us insight into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Great.